you can go into the beer halls already when you're 15, wow. 16, which is quite different, obviously, from my peers in the US. Yeah. But yeah, no, Munich is a really fun place to be. It's lovely. It's really
and what brought you there? I think
I've been here almost 20 years. So I came originally through. I worked as a legislative advisor and chief general counsel to a state governor, the state of South Carolina in the U.S. Mm-hmm. And we have over 300 Bavarian companies in South Carolina due to our relationship with BMW. That's where they're located. Wow. Wow. Yeah, so I was doing a lot of economic development with them and ended up moving to Munich for a job. I'm also a lawyer, so I joined a law firm, a corporate law firm that was helping companies to expand across the pond.
Fantastic, and I presume you're Anton's just joined, so I can have many questions. But hi, Anton.
Hi everyone, how you doing?
Very well, thank you. Very well. How are you today?
Well, I am sort of recovering from a minor procedure I had a couple of days ago. Oh. But this feels much better than the product and tech one that I had to do almost under anesthesia. I literally had just come up from the theater, from the operating room.
Oh my gosh.
And that was fun. I've no idea what I've said. And I'm dreading to look at the recording.
I think you need to learn how to say no, Anton.
But that's the thing. It's one of those things that when you agree to do these rooms, it's not a good thing to cancel them. People expect us to be at a certain time on a certain day, so I thought I'd be able to do it. I think it wasn't too bad. Besides, if anything, I think I talk less than I normally do, and that's always a good thing for people that have to bear me. So that's I think pretty good. Are we ready to go live?
Ready.
Ready.
Let's do this. Thank you very much. Let's see. Go live. It says pre-live. No, we're not pre-live. We are live. There you go. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you very much for joining us. This is Startup Fundraising Q&A. It's our last Q&A of 2024. However, we're here to help startups like yourselves with whatever questions you may have in terms of that fundraising journey to take your business to the next stage. The idea is quite simple. You see, unfortunately, over 90% of startups fail. The top 3 reasons for that: 1, market fit; 2, running out of money; and 3, not having the right people. That second reason why we mostly tend to fail is why we're here today. Hopefully, we won't only help you and come up with ideas for you to not fail, but actually, hopefully, we'll come up with ideas for you to thrive. And by the way, your questions today can be on anything to do with fundraising, whether it is let's say, when's the right time to reach out to an investor? Should I reach out to an investor? What kind of investor should I go after? What are valuations? How do I build my pitch deck, data room? Or perhaps, what do I do with my term sheet? Anything and everything within that sphere, this is the place to be. Again, it's our last Q&A for this year. But we've got some brilliant stuff coming up in the new year. We're actually going to add a few more Q&As. Just a reminder for everyone, we currently run 4 sessions per week: Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, and Thursday's fundraising. They're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. From January 25, we'll have 6 of those. So we'll have these 4 weekly ones, and we'll add 2 monthly sessions. One on legal stuff, so UK law for startups, and we'll call it Startup Legal Q&A. Talk about imagination here. And that will be on the second Friday of each month. And another session we'll have, it's on finances. Again, talk about imagination. Startup Finances Q&A will be every 3rd Friday of the month from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. As far as today's concerned, we'll go through some quick introductions and then open it for questions from the audience. For those of you that are tuning in via YouTube or Facebook, please be aware that unfortunately we're unable to monitor your questions there, so you'll need to join us live here on LinkedIn Live Audio. You can do that by either going to our site, startuptoscaleup.club, and look for today's session, which is Startup Fundraising Q&A 123. Yes, exactly 123 sessions since we started these, and we've had around 270,000 people that have tuned in so far, and we've helped over 1,500 founders, but none of that would have happened without people like Sarah and Archie. So please show them your love, follow them here on LinkedIn, and even reach out if you need to. Now, as far as how this works is we'll do the introductions, open it for questions from the audience, and actually just before the questions, perhaps Sarah and Archie wouldn't mind giving us their biggest do's and don'ts when it comes to early stage fundraising, and then we'll take questions from yourselves. We're only going to be here for the next 54 minutes, and guess what? Time flies, and it will be over in way, way faster time than you think it is. So don't leave it for last second to come up with questions. Nevertheless, some quick introductions now. My name's 𝗦𝘁𝗿𝗏. I'm an Albanian in London working with startups. Normally right after they get investment, I embed within their teams and help them hire and keep the right people. I also do some growth advisory work with a few other startups and some accelerators, and lately have been helping angels and family offices with their due diligence and assessment. Although I'm now mostly focused in making Startup to Scale Up Club the best accelerator that there is out there. And without further ado, I'll pass it over to the brilliant panelists we have here today. Sarah.
Thanks, Anton. And I'm excited to be here today. Also very thankful that that I've been able to do this now for the second time. So I'm happy to be here again. Let's see, let me start with a couple of do's and don'ts, and then I'll pass it over to Archie.
How about an introduction first, Sarah?
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. You know what? Because I was on already, I forgot to do that. So I'm Sarah Antor. I am currently raising a fund that will be able to invest starting in the spring. It's called Helena Capital. And my background, as I was chatting a little bit with Archie beforehand, I'm an American who lives in Munich, Germany. I've been in Munich for about 20 years. And I've spent the bulk of my 27-year career at the intersection of tech and banking and law. So what does that mean for you guys on the phone? I've spent 25 of those years helping companies, small and middle-sized companies, but also larger companies, to expand across the pond in both directions. I've also worked for several years in M&A, and one of my last, let's call it my last paying gig, was CEO of Raymond James Germany, which is an investment bank, and we built out their M&A division here in Europe. But what I'm doing now, so the last sort of 18 months to 2 years, I've moved into the venture capital space. So a little piece of my work that I did in Germany was helping mostly fintechs, but helping startups to build up their business, both from the legal perspective as well as strategic, and then prepare them for scaling. So I've sort of put all these pieces together and have launched my fund called Helena Capital with 2 other female GPs located in Amsterdam and New York. And we're focused on the Series B stage. However, we're really interested in seeing and tracking seed and Series A companies who are focused in the intersection of climate and supply chain. So that's kind of an area that we're really interested in for the first fund. And yeah, I'm happy to be here. I will go through, let me give you sort of two to start, and then I'll pass it over to Archie because I don't want to take up all the airtime here. So one is, as I've seen sort of the beginning all the way to the exit of many companies, sort of the entire life cycle, something that feels really heavy when you're first starting out is that it's true. You will what you hear is true, that you will spend the majority of your time out in the field selling not your product, but yourself and your team and your organization. So that's something I hope all of you on the call do recognize, because it's sort of the end of the innocence when you realize, oh, I thought I was going to spend 80% of the time on my product. That's unfortunately not a luxury that most single founders or even co-founders have. So I would say, as you start to go out into the world, whether that's to talk to friends and family or angels or early stage VC, you need to create a routine for yourself, not only to have several storylines ready for the way you pitch yourself and your team, but also doing your homework on the different audiences that you're going to go to see and that you're going to speak with. I think one of the biggest mistakes I sense when I'm listening to pitches or when I'm hearing pitches is sort of this one size fits all. And as your base of fundraisers evolves, and your base of where your audience comes from, as that sort of evolves, so does your pitch. And so I would start there. I think there's a lot we can unpack, but I'll let Archie.
That's amazing. Thank you very much, Sarah. I really appreciate that. Archie, thank you very much for joining us. The floor is yours.
No, it's an absolute pleasure to be here, and yeah, fascinating to learn more about Helena Capital from you, Sarah. So thank you. So my background is at 𝗦𝘁்𝗿 Group. 𝗦𝘁்𝗿 Group is an investment and advisory company specialising in the agri-food and climate sector. In the investment side, we've got two theses. One is the farmland strategy. We are soon to raise our fund. We're about halfway there and raised about 30 million for a farmland fund, in particular in Australasia. And then the second strategy is more of a late VC private equity deal by deal basis. We see lots of value in early stage startups in the UK and Europe in the agri-food space, but also a bit of a misalignment with the VC space, and haven't really seen the exits historically. There's a number of family-run businesses we're finding that are having tremendous climate impact technologies and innovation, but need to almost be incorporated with some of the early stage IP coming out of UK universities. So that's where we are at the moment. We just performed our first deal, which will be announced in January, an animal feed company with a methane reducing additive technology. And yeah, and on the advisory side, similar space. My background before, I was at Milltrust International, a small family office asset management company co-located between London and Singapore. Made 5 investments for the family office side there. Small tickets range from 100K all the way up to half a million in climate tech solutions, ranging from plant stem cell company that's able to produce powerful bioactives, for example, for the pharmaceutical or agricultural sector, ranging to biodegradable plastics, a company called Polymateria. And then previous to that, yeah, my personal side, I'm from a rural background in central England, Shropshire, and then yeah, worked early years on dairy farms, and then went up to Edinburgh University and I studied anthropology. But just to go on to, I think, the do's and don'ts, just a very high level, and of course, following on from what Sarah said, I couldn't agree more about the selling yourself. You know, you think it's going to be all about the company, but half the time it's actually about trusting you as an individual. And as a result, I would say you really need to have a great openness with your investors, and as a result, going into your backgrounds will probably be at least the first half an hour if you're having an in-person meeting before getting onto the technology. So having a clear story of your own timelines and why you've gone from one to the other, rather than it seeming like you know, someone can be a jack of all trades. And as such, you know, that storyline does change. And again, reiterating exactly what Sarah said, it needs to be tailored to investor. And, you know, the phrase would be horses for courses. Whether it may be an angel investor, you can have something in particular that's focused on their background, perhaps where they've actually made their money and are able to make the angel investments. Family offices would be a similar-ish strategy. And then when you actually get to VCs and more institutional investors, it may be that you're more focused on the business. But understanding your client fundamentally, and not just yourself, but your wider team. I'll leave it at that for now, and then I'll let Anton carry on.
Good stuff. Well, thank you very much to both of you. Those are both some brilliant do's and don'ts, and I'm sure the founders tuning in will appreciate them. Speaking of the founders tuning in, guess what we're doing here today? We're helping you go from startup to scale up with whatever guidance you need in terms of fundraising. Now, those of you that have listened to me before may probably know that I'm not a big fan of fundraising, but I'm also aware that we don't all have rich auntie or uncle or mummies and daddies banks. And sometimes we do need money to take our business to the next stage. Hopefully today, with the two brilliant panelists we have, we can help some of you with that. Whether your questions today are on when's the right time to raise, who do you go after? Is it crowdfunding, angel, VC, a bank to get a loan, or maybe how to build your pitch deck or your data room, or what are valuations, or anything within that sphere, all you have to do is raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage, introduce yourself, and then fire away with your questions. By the way, there are no wrong or right questions, and there's no need to be shy. It's a learning curve for us all. Today is our last Q&A for this year, and then we resume in January, week commencing 13th of January, and we'll have the 4 sessions we've had so far, which is talent on Mondays, product and tech on Tuesdays, growth on Wednesdays, and fundraising on Thursdays. And we'll also have 2 monthly sessions, a startup legal Q&A second Friday of the month. That is for UK startup law, and startup finances Q&A third Friday of the month. And all of these will be 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. If you go to our website, startuptoscaleup.club, you'll be able to RSVP as soon as they're live, and they'll be soon. They'll be live there. You'll be able to RSVP to sessions. You can also join our WhatsApp group. I just got cut off. Can you hear me now?
Hello. Yeah, apologies. I just accidentally left.
That's all right. So I don't know what happened to me, but I just got cut off. Now I'm back. So the idea is that if you are in the UK, you can tune in and get alerts via our WhatsApp group, which is in the comments here. But for now, all you have to do is just raise your hand and we'll bring you up on stage if you've got any questions. Whilst we're waiting for people to get the courage to come up, we're going to go through some questions that were sent in to us. This one, it's from a lady in Belfast. Where is it? I'll put it in the group chat, panelists, so that you can read it too. So this is an AI for retail pricing optimization in London and Belfast. After our masters, my co-founder moved back to Belfast. Sorry, I got it wrong. She's in London and her co-founder is in Belfast. After our masters, my co-founder moved back to Belfast. Our retail pricing optimization startup recently had a funding round fall through. What contingency plans, such as reducing overheads or pivoting to faster revenue generating services, would most effectively extend runway whilst we seek new investors? And also, should we consider short-term bridge financing to cover immediate costs? What's the likeliest success? I'm assuming she means like what is likely for her to be approved on that. Or would this complicate our cap table for future investors? Shall we go with Archie first and then Sarah?
Thank you, Anton. So in order to probably have a thorough answer, I'd have to understand a bit more about your business. But I would firstly, on the surface, just say all of the above. In terms of actual financing, absolutely. I don't think it would necessarily complicate your cap table too much, and that I caveat that with, you know, the number of investors that would come in, the quantity in comparison to the actual amount you are trying to raise, etc. You could go out there with a safe agreement. I don't know what the acronyms exactly for. Simple agreement for future equity, I think it may be, or a convertible note may be a good way. As a result, you can give someone a discount on the future fundraise. Quite often, those who come in at that sort of stage may be ones who could potentially actually reinvest their capital, and they're good to prove that you can hit certain milestones, especially when you create that relationship at a stressful time. But to go back to the former of your question, anything to to lower overheads and extend runway is good, and I don't have a single one that is better than the other.
Thanks, Archie. I now it's my turn to say I completely agree. In fact, my first sentence was going to be very similar. I think for us to give a better overview, we would need a lot more information, and it's not just company to company, it's situation to situation, and also a personal decision. I would, if it were me, I would definitely consider short-term bridge financing. I would definitely look at ways to extend the runway by not taking additional financing. I think you need to explore all of your options here.
Thank you very much to both of you. Personally, and again, I totally agree with both Archie and Sarah that, you know, it'd be nice to have you here live so that we can perhaps ask some follow-ups. But what I'm quite curious to understand is, why did the deal fall through? And that's probably something you want to investigate so that it doesn't happen again. That would be something I'd look at. And in terms of the advice, definitely you've got to find and do whatever you can to keep the lights on, really. So try all of the above that you've mentioned, really. Right here, a quick reset of the room. We're here to help startups with whatever questions you have on fundraising. So if you've got any, we're only going to be here for the next 36 minutes, and it's our last Q&A of the year. So just raise your hand, we'll bring you up on stage, introduce yourself, and then fire away. But for now, let's go on to Colleen. Colleen, please introduce yourself and fire away with your question.
Yes, good morning, everyone, and happy holidays. So I'm kind of in the same situation. The best news so I'm the CEO of Save Our Planet Refillery. We're a wholesale volume dispensing system that's transforming distribution with new infrastructure and technology to remove packaging. We're selling systems to global industries. We have the interest of Walmart and cities like Manhattan. So I'm in the same, I'm up here because of the bridge loan kind of idea, where I have full project funding from the EU climate bonds, but of course there's always delays. And then there's always so you're trying to bridge yourself between that contract and whatever issues they're having in order to continue on. So also I'm a nominee for the 𝗬𝗏 Prize for 2025 under the category of building a waste-free world. There's a lot going on always, but it's trying to bridge yourself to the next, till when things are confirmed they're coming through. And I don't know if it's a short-term bridge loan or if it should be an equity deal, say for $1 million US. The contract with the EU climate bonds is for 25 million US. So I'm just trying to bridge myself so that I'm not, well, I want to put in for a real estate deal, and there's things to keep moving forward because you hate sitting and waiting for things to happen. What is your suggestion that I do, and how would I approach that?
I hear you. Thank you very much for that, Colleen. Colleen, can I ask you a bit further on this deal with the EU? You said it's 25 million. Is that some kind of investment? Is that a procurement deal? Would you mind explaining a little bit more?
Actually, that deal has been, because the mandates of so there's a whole bunch of categories. You can look up the Climate Bond Initiative I think it's org. I'd have to look it up again. Anyways, they have so many mandates. The mandate that I'm in is waste reduction. So the projects, there's 7 projects within this one bond for 500 million euros. And so every project must be reducing waste, and the investment bank takes it to the market for the 500 million euros. That's how I understand it. I'm not the best. I'm not certified, and it's not really my portion. I have a deal with the bond holder.
Okay, so the deal with the bond holder, you said it's for 25 mil, is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And how would that work? Do you have to match something? Do you have to have a product ready? How does it work?
No, they need, within the bond, they need to meet their mandate, which is to reduce waste. I'm their #1 innovation in reducing waste.
So when do you get that money?
He's getting the guarantor. They're going through, they have to get, so this is the thing with finance. There's always another level. So the bond has to have a deposit of minimum 10%. So he had to go find somebody that would give them 50 million euros as a deposit, that the investment bank can then move it forward to take the bond to market. So that means it has to be insured. And the beauty of the EU climate bond is it is science-based. Everything has to be science-based. And so that's all I know about it, to be honest with you. I'm not the best.
I hear you. I hear you.
Thanks.
Okay, here's my quick 2 pence, and then I'll pass you on to the investors. Personally, from what I can see here, there is no assurance in what you could possibly get. It could happen, and I really hope it does. So personally, I would put all my eggs on other stuff, find a way to keep the lights on, find a way to perhaps find some investment in the meantime, especially when it comes to public sector opportunities and grants, etc. Although, as you probably already know, because I'm assuming you might have looked into it, they can be a bleeding nightmare in terms of the time that it takes. I remember going to an EIC, European Innovation Council event, and they were talking that most of the people that did have success, which is a very, very small percentage of the applicants, by the way, and I can understand why, but most of those people take at least 200 hours to actually fill out those applications. So personally, I would say find a way to keep the lights on. This seems quite a moonshot project to me. But let's see what Sarah and then Archie have to say on this. Sarah?
Thanks, Anton. I just want to reiterate the point here that two things. One that I made at the very beginning, which is it may come as a surprise, Colleen, to you and others on the call, that you, I think the biggest end of the innocence is realizing that you can't ever stop raising money. And there are a lot of folks out there who spend the early years bootstrapping. And if you have that money in your pocket, or you're able to create income streams that are, you know, I don't want to call them side gigs, because it's not exactly, you know, you would do that personally to keep yourself afloat, but there's also a way to find income streams that are adjacent to your product and what you're doing, and may be able to help support. Other than that, it is spending the time, as Anton then also suggested. I know loads and loads of founders who spend the bulk of their time sort of researching grants, and then writing the applications. There are also people out there who do this for a living. There's a lot of money to be had, especially in a space where you are, but it takes time, and it's of course highly competitive. So first things first, I think you have to sort of scour the market for the low-hanging fruit, which is going to be grant money. It's going to be you know, friends and family, which doesn't really necessarily have to be friends or family, but you have to somehow get your story out there. And I think that's at the beginning, when you're trying to get initial funding, that's the best thing you can do for yourself. And then when you run into problems, because it's not a if, it's a when, everyone runs into fundraising problems. That's why I think Anton probably hates it. It is not easy, and there's always going to be something that doesn't come through when you're expecting it to come through. And that's why this kind of preparation, and constantly, you know, every week setting aside 2 to 3 days just to get your story out there, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's, you know, applying to grants. Like, you need to have a sort of a hardcore routine in place, so that you have the luxury of choosing between capital sources, rather than kind of desperately going, because it's a cycle, right? And when you come across as, we know this ourselves, we're also fundraising, when you come across as sort of desperate to get that money in the door because you need it, because you don't have any runway left, this is unfortunately a red flag for even, you know, for angel investors, for individual friends and family, definitely for, you know, grants are never going to be quick. And so I think you have to very much do a budget planning for your startup where it is today. That would be.
Thank you very much, Sarah. Archie, what's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I completely agree with everything Sarah said. Desperation is, yeah, it's something that is a real red flag for investors. And my questions really, well, they really go around, obviously there's fantastic milestones. It sounds like your business has achieved the Earthshot, and then almost, you said, making traction with Walmart. But then, in order to answer your question of where to go, how much, etc., I'd probably want to ask, how soon do you need the capital? What sort of size is this gap? And then also, actually, what, you know, are you producing revenues at the moment, and if so, what amount? And the reason for those questions, which you don't necessarily have to answer right now, is my answers would change accordingly. You know, in terms of timeline, you could, and revenue, you could go out for debt financing if you've got a good revenue and you've got a little bit of time. If it's a small amount, a small gap, investors naturally, they always like, firstly, if you've got the phrase, you know, skin in the game, or you have a personal investment in your own company. And then if it is also a small to medium amount, that would determine who you go to, whether you go to more alternative investors in the angel family office, friends and family network, or whether you go for more alternate structuring of deals for probably opportunistic VCs. And finally, just to really build on Sarah's point of grants, yeah, it's a fantastic way of not diluting yourself. Well, for undilutive funding, there's a fine balance between sort of grant chasing and being a successful grant applier. I'm currently working with a company at the moment that's, they're raising 7.5 million in their Series A, and they've been brilliant with their grants in the past, and making sure that their grants don't deviate them from their current projects too much. I don't know a huge amount about the international grant scene, but in the UK, it's pretty good with Innovate UK. But yeah, I hope that helped a little.
Thank you very much, Archie, and thank you, Sarah. And Colleen, if I may quickly add, so it used to be that the average sort of time to raise was around 6 months, or up to 3 to 6 months. Unfortunately, what I'm seeing at the moment, it's a year, sometimes even 18 months, depending on where you are and your past track records and jurisdiction and so on. So that's something to bear in mind. And I fully concur both with Sarah's point in terms of having a side gig. I think you might have mentioned in the past some potential work in the States, in Manhattan or somewhere. So maybe try and see if you can do some kind of consulting, which would, one, give you some fuel to keep the lights on, but at the same time, it could even open doors to other work for your startup. And two, there's a few philanthropic organizations out there as well that are worth looking into. Again, they may not give you all the millions you need, but they might give you certain things, and they are really good, some of those larger organizations, at opening doors for you. I hope that helps, Colleen.
Yes, thanks, everyone. Yes, I've done the typical, everything an entrepreneur would do is bootstrap it till I use that all up, go to family and friends and raise as much as I can that way. So you go through all those cycles thinking, I'm saving the planet. It's in the name. It's a very interesting journey. I'm an automation girl, 35 years tech. I've never seen anything so slow in all my life. And it really, really, as a lean architect, there's time to redesign processes where there's a world in crisis and funding at the slowest level of minimum 18 to 2 years, 3 years before you get anything off the ground. It just needs a lot of work. There is tons of work out there, everyone. The world's running at only 10% efficient, and that's why we are in a crisis environmentally and otherwise. So I think there's tons of work, and speed to everything is what we need. The slowness is not going to cut it. So anyways, thank you. Have a happy holiday, everyone.
You too, Colleen. Thank you very much for joining. Really appreciate it. Right, a quick reset of the room. We've only got 21 minutes to go, so let's get into some questions live rather than those that get sent in, because it's not as much fun to start with. And secondly, I think we are better placed to help people with live questions where we can ask follow-ups. Nevertheless, this is our last Q&A of the year. This is Startup Fundraising Q&A 123. We are here to help founders with whatever questions you may have in terms of fundraising for your business in order to take it to the next stage. The idea is quite simple. If you are a startup in the room and you've got any questions, all you have to do is raise your hand. We'll bring you up on stage, introduce yourself, and then fire away with whatever you have for us. On the other hand, when we resume on the 13th of January, week commencing 13th of January, 25. We will then go with 6 events. One, it's Monday's talent, Tuesday's product and tech, Wednesday's growth, Thursday's fundraising, and they're all from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. We'll also add a monthly session on legal Q&A, so UK startup law. That will be second Friday of the month, and one on finances, so startup finances Q&A, and that is on the third Friday of each month, and that will be from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. If you're UK based, we've got a WhatsApp group, and I'll put the link to it here in the comments of this event, which all you need to do is click on the 3 dots at the top of your screen to look at that, and then go onto the comments and find it. We've got a question that was sent in from one of the people in the audience, and that is in the I've just put that in our group chat with the investors. But since we've got Ina coming up on stage, we'll go to Ina first with a live question, and then hopefully we'll have time for the question that the chat in the audience sent in just now. Ina, please introduce yourself. Thank you very much for coming up, and fire away with whatever question you have for us on fundraising today. There's a mic icon at the bottom of your screen on the right-hand side, Ina.
Oh, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you very much for coming up.
Excellent. Thank you, guys. Really exciting to have an opportunity to ask questions. Very valuable information about the bootstrapping. So pretty much it was our strategy for now as well. We are in AI as a service specifically for clinical trial recruitment materials for pediatrics. Very niche. My main question is, we recently had an offer for large organization for equity swap. I'm not sure whether this is a good strategy and what implication that may have for the future rounds. So they don't invest in money, but more like a distribution channel and access to the customer segments. But I'm a bit unsure about equity swap element and potentially having less than 50% myself, because the stake is very high. So I'm just interested to know whether this is the successful avenue in addition to bootstrap, or is it better focusing on raising ourselves?
Nina, thank you very much for coming up, and very well done. I've just had a quick look at your startup, and I think it's amazing, and I really think it got legs. Now, would you mind if I ask you a couple of questions? Number one, you don't have to, but if you feel comfortable to share what the current cap table is, i.e. what is the equity share at the moment? And two, maybe go into a bit more detail about that equity swap. What is it that they are offering in return, and how much are they asking for in terms of equity?
Yeah, so I need to be careful about not disclosing too much of confidential information. So
no, you don't. Like I said, don't give us names. You don't
Yeah.
need to sort of go into legal details. But I'm trying to understand what the current cap table is and what's in store with this offer here.
Yeah.
As in, what are you going to get out of it, basically?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, since we were in active negotiations and I wasn't sure, so we kind of said, okay, we will reconvene in January 2025 when we had the reflection. So that's why I want to use this opportunity to get a little bit more guidance on that. So I got 75% at the moment, which is shareholding will be less after fully diluted, because we also got option pool with 10% of those people who will convert, but they won't have a 40%. So which potentially, if they do take, then I will have like 45, 47%.
And who owes the other 25% at the moment, Ina? How many people do you have, and are they individuals or institutions?
So 25% is set aside and only 11 is allocated. So that means the company having unallocated shares, which could potentially can be returned. It is a mixture. It is a mixture between a company and individuals who were backing this company from the beginning.
Fair enough, fair enough. And what is the offer from this company? So they said they want 40% for a swap. What are they giving you in return?
Their stake and our stake. So they want to have, but the thing is, why we stop negotiations? Because I don't have a formal valuation of the company. So my formal valuation is the last investment from the angels, which is more what the equity swap price per share would be. So although we raised a bit of angels under SCIS, which is now discontinued or expired. So we had another top up when the SCIS expired in August. So we still have an EIS. I know it's insignificant to the amount which we could potentially generate with this new equity swap, but nevertheless.
Sorry to interrupt, Ina. The reason why I ask is that, to my knowledge, and I hope Archie and Sarah can correct me if I'm wrong, but to my knowledge, the main benefit of equity swap is so that you can share cash flow. Pretty much that is the main thing. So that's what I'm trying to understand. What is this company willing to give you in exchange for 40%? Is there anything tangible, or anything substantial there?
So in my understanding, and yeah, potentially that cash flow, that means my revenue going into their revenue and their revenue going to my revenue, this type of things. But yeah, and then it's so we negotiated if we don't generate with their help 100,000 per year, then they would not have entitled to the equity in our company. So there are some incentives, but they're like a larger holding company. They got more companies under the umbrella. So they're acquiring tech startup and offering them pretty much the same model, which I'm a bit unsure. It's not only one company. There are 3 more companies in this space.
I hear. Okay, I'll give you my quick 2 pence, then I'll pass it on to the experts. We'll start with Archie this time, and then Sarah, just to switch it up. Personally, number one thing, obviously, find a decent lawyer. This isn't something that you can, or not just you, but anybody can decide just based on certain conversations. Number 2, I would strongly advise you to do some research and see what's out there in the market at the moment with these kind of deals. Number 3, you definitely want to have a look at the details of that term sheet of equity swap. I'm sorry, I don't know why, but there's a huge echo every time.
Yeah, sorry, I think it's the construction of like everything in London. I don't know why they started now. I can put myself on mute.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. So I would look at that. And the third thing is to look at this equity swap for cash flow. To me, if somebody's guaranteeing 100K for a business like yours, and you got to give 40%, I personally think it would. This is just based on my experience. It's probably not the most favorable deal in the world. But then on the other hand, you also have to, decide whether you keep the business going or not. But personally, 100K in exchange for 40%, I think that is quite steep. Let's hear what the experts got to say, though. Archie?
I completely agree with you there, Anton. My background, I have not seen this, and so I can't offer a huge amount of guidance. However, I do believe that you need to do your research on this particular company, seen if they've done it with previous other startups and how that's paid out, and ultimately, do you trust them? And first of all, in a personal capacity, and secondly, what does your lawyer say about the actual detail of this? I can't offer a huge amount there, but if you do have alternatives, it would be worth exploring them in the meantime, if not a huge amount of time pressure has been put on you, and see if you can further them before this, because it is a bit unorthodox. However, yeah, Sarah, you might have a different view.
No,
Just
yeah.
before we go to Sarah, I'm really sorry, Sarah. just wanted to pick on that point from Archie. If they're putting pressure on you to do this right now, then you got to have some alarm bells. But once Sarah's done with her advice, if you want, there's one of the lawyers who's going to join us for our first legal Q&A, and he's done a ton of work within the startup ecosystem. I'm happy to give you his details. I'm sorry to interrupt, Sarah.
You're fine, Anton. I was just gonna say something similar. If they're pressuring you, like, run in the other direction. But Ina, can I ask you a question? I know you've got this noise in the background, but just in case I missed, because maybe I missed it, but following on to what Archie was saying, are you in a pressure situation? So in other words, was this an answer to your fundraising efforts, or did they reach out to you? And are you currently actively fundraising?
Yes, we are currently fundraising. So we are, and I do apologize if you hear the background noises. I'll put myself on mute again. I'm really sorry. So yes, we are okay for the cash flow, but we want to conduct actually a research study ourselves because we are scientists. So we need to prove that AI tools are actually clinically effective. And in this slide, because we pitch to the big hospitals and they are scientists as well. So to make this decision for children, we need evidence. In light of this, we need fundraise just to support our research effort and prove this scientifically, because that would create so much more credibility and the value to the stakeholders. So yes, we are fundraising, and they approached me, so they were aware of what we are doing. I was not actively chasing them or identifying them, so they reached out to us because the clinical research, and specific this niche, is quite small, so we know everybody. Yeah, that's a short answer.
Okay, thanks. I would say two things. Number one, I think that this falls in line with what you've already heard. I would be very cautious about going into, quote, the first deal you get kind of thing. So I would definitely get a lawyer. I'm a lawyer myself, so I think that goes without saying that you should, the next conversations you go into, you should have advice, if not someone, with you in those conversations. I would be hesitant and would do a lot more due diligence here, not only on them, but as Anton pointed out, what are they getting out of it? What's their, not just what they're getting out of it, but what is the reason, the real reason why they reached out to you? So are they interested in this report? And you don't have to answer. These are kind of rhetorical questions for you to think about. Are they interested in that report and that research you're going to do? Are they interested in kind of being in the space because this is where they've always been in the space? Something I think maybe Archie said, can you get a referral from another startup where they have done exactly the same, like an equity swap, and have gotten on the cap table? If they don't offer that to you, you can ask them point blank that you'd like to have one or more referrals. And if they don't offer that to you, it's another red flag, because they should be very willing to offer that to you. Something else I would say besides referral is understanding. I mean, I think we have the money dangling like a carrot in front of our eyes a lot of the times. But as we all know deep down, with that first money, especially if it's sort of too good to be true, are we going to regret it, right? And when you're thinking about your company, and this goes for everybody who's listening, before you even set up for fundraising, but certainly while you're in the midst of it, remember who your perfect audience is. So think about the perfect scenario. Who is the perfect investor for you? Who do you want on because they'd be good on your cap table? Who do you want because they'd be a good advisor? All of these things, make yourself a checklist, and even name names. Maybe you never get them, but at least you voiced it to yourself and others who that perfect investor is, and then compare this investor and all others to that. So what would you get if you had your perfect investor? And I think Archie was talking about this too, and Anton actually. What are you getting in return? Are you getting great advice? Are you getting door opening? Are you getting money to give you runway and support to write this document? Are there better investors out there? And so I would say, I know it's hard to give up something that's in the hand, but while you're diligencing them and taking your time, and I would say take at least a month to diligence them, you can also be thinking about reaching out to other potential investors and saying, use them as leverage. Say, we've got somebody who's interested in doing this. Would you also be interested in hearing more about us? So my intuition here with very little information is, don't take the first thing you're getting, and make sure this is, if you had a list of investors and they were on it, would they still be as exciting for you?
Thank you very much, Sarah. And Ina, if you would like to come up on stage again, you'd need to raise your hand, and I'll happily do that. We are 4 minutes away from wrapping up today. Nevertheless, can I quickly ask you, Ina, what is your runway like at the moment? So how much can you keep going without getting new funding? And two, do you actually have a product out there that people can get their hands on and pay for it? And if you don't, how far are you from that? And roughly how much would it cost you to do that?
Yeah, good question. Yes, we do have the entire platform, which has been built and tested, has more than 2,000 users. If we don't raise, we just don't capitalize on that, which we have existing partnerships interested in do all sorts of activities to utilize this part. Now, we are laser focused on patient recruitment, and we create products with AI. This product has been built and has been put in front of ethic committees. So we got ethic committee in the United States, which called RB. We got an agreement with them that they will approve us on the RB level. That means we need money to file patent because that's like cutting edge. So when you create product with AI, for this piece, we need to protect our intellectual property, which that's why we need money. So if we don't fundraise, we just don't capitalize on what we have built. But that would enough for us to keep going, basically, as a revenue generation.
I hear. Well, I cannot get myself to a position where I'm telling founders not to take fundraising, because that could be the difference between make or break your startup. But I think with you having a working product that people can pay for it, I would focus on angels. I would focus on things like Innovate UK. I would focus on NHS innovation. I would focus on getting people to pay for it, literally hammer the phones, go after the private ones in the UK, because that would be an easier and a quicker entry rather than through the NHS. But if you manage to crack the NHS, then you're laughing all the way to the bank. But it's not as easy to get in. What I would do is sit down, make a list of, I don't know, up to 100 angels that you can go out there and you can find that they've invested in similar stuff, or perhaps they were in a company that exited that was in similar stuff, and just reach out to them. I'm happy to give you half an hour of my time for free. I'm not sure I can do it this side of Christmas, but definitely in January, if you want to have a chat, just to throw out some ideas, just feel free to reach out to me. We are now 1 minute over the line, so I don't want to keep Sarah and Archie longer, but this has been our last Q&A for this year. So perhaps some parting words. Let's start with the lady of the house. Sarah?
Thanks, Anton. Parting words. Let's see. I feel like we've had some really fantastic questions. And I just want to circle back to where we sort of started with some do's and don'ts. And I think we've touched on a lot of these throughout the Q&A today. Understand one that I think has run through each of the questions that we've had, and that is, understand from your own perspective how much runway you have and when you're fundraising, and I'm all for fundraising for more, so don't get me wrong here, but understand what you need the money for. And if that is just to give you more runway and you're not sort of desperate, but actually in a great place, even better. But understand, investors want to know not only what they're paying for in simpler terms, but they want to understand your way of thinking. And so don't forget something I said at the very beginning, they're investing in you, not just your product. And I think this is one of the reasons why early ideas and early stage companies have trouble fundraising, because they sort of miss that. They think, well, I've got this great product and everyone needs it and the world needs it. And you don't spend as much time on selling who you are and the why behind the mission behind what you're doing. So investors are really looking to understand who you are. And if you're a multi-person team, who is the team? What's the mission? What's the passion lighting you on fire every morning? And are you the type of founder who can also pivot when the market throws something heavy your way? So you might have one fantastic product, but investors are long-term thinkers, and they want to understand your budgeting long-term. What are you going to use this fundraise for? And the next, and the next, and the next. Where are you going? And what additional products are bubbling in your mind for left and right? And these are some of the things that investors look for when they decide to risk their money in a venture. They want to believe in you. They want to believe in your product, but they also want to believe that they can put their money with a founder who's going to, carry them for many, many years to come with new ideas and new ways to solve challenging problems. So happy Christmas to everyone. I hope you all have a great start to the new year. And I think this is a really nice way to end out the year. Gives us all something to think about over the next couple of weeks as we enjoy some quiet time. Thanks.
Huge thanks, Sarah. Archie?
Yeah, I can add a huge amount on to Sarah there, just to reiterate. Create those personal relationships. And when I say personal relationships, you don't have to sort of mirror the person that you're going out to and try and sort of be the person they are or match their characteristics, but be kind, be persistent though when they do say no at the start. Go back to them after a suitable amount of time and just keep them up to date rather than sort of hard selling or cold selling. And then finally, probably just to keep yourself sane, make sure you have I don't know, a certain amount of time a week away from your startup. It's all consuming, and I know this from being one of the founders at Varesco. It's all you really think about. But in order to realign yourself with the original motive and why you got in the first place, you need some time away. So just to reiterate, as Sarah said, all of those things. And then thank you, Anton, and I hope everyone has a lovely Christmas period and managed to get a bit of a break.
Thank you very much, Archie. Huge thanks to both of you. Right, some words and maybe some stuff at the end. Number one, we've been running these sessions since the 29th of March 2021. We've had 270,000 people join us so far, as we've helped over 1,500 founders. None of that would have happened without people like Sarah and Archie. So please show them your love, follow them, reach out to them. Number two, here's a really crazy goal, and that is to go to 500,000 of people in the next year, by the end of next year, and also help a lot more founders. Now, From January, we resume on the 13th of Jan 25, and we'll have 6 sessions to help founders. We'll have startup talent on Mondays, startup product and tech on Tuesdays, startup growth on Wednesdays, and startup fundraising on Thursdays. We'll also add a startup legal Q&A on the second Friday of each month, starting on the 17th of Jan, and a startup finances Q&A, which will be on the third Friday of each month, starting on the 24th, I believe, 24th, yep, of January 25. They'll all be from 12 to 1 p.m. UK time. If you are especially UK based, we've got a WhatsApp group where you can get alerts for all future Q&As. That link is in the comments here in this event, and the way to find that is at the top of your screen. You've got 3 dots, and then it will take you to the comments. For those of you tuning in via YouTube or Facebook, please feel free to check our website, startuptoscaleup.club, or perhaps for the others that aren't UK based but still want to join, you can follow and click always to get alerts from our LinkedIn page, Startup to Scale Up Club. And the idea, it's quite simple. In terms of my parting words, just remember the startup journey can be both exciting but also quite challenging. So try to have some fun in the meantime and be kind to yourself and everyone else. Otherwise, have a great Christmas and New Year's if you celebrate them. But either way, try to recharge, spend time with your loved ones, and remember, a startup is your baby. You've got a ton of other babies and important things, and especially important people in your life that you need to pay attention to. Try to do that this Christmas. Again, thank you very much. See you all on the 13th of January. God bless you, and bye-bye for now.